and Teddy Perkins.
Good afternoon, Chair Gunter and committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Teddy Perkins and I live here in Atlanta. I work as a clinical trauma therapist and I've completed 6 additional years of graduate research on sexual violence prevention and response. There's a famous fairy tale written by Hans Christian Andersen and later developed into a classic Disney movie about a little mermaid. In this story, the villain presents the young girl with a cruel dialectic. If she wants to walk freely among people on the earth, she must give up her voice. The evil of this offer is found in the exploitation of Ariel's desire for agency, the promise of the world in exchange for the freedom to speak. I am here today as someone who has been personally and professionally impacted by the real-life analog of this fairy tale, a cruelty that is, unfortunately, not at all rare. It is a common and well-established practice for victims of sexual violence who pursue criminal recourse to be cajoled into signing NDAs, either as independent documents or as clauses in longer settlement forms. Traumatologists often reference a phenomenon called secondary victimization. In the aftermath of sexual abuse and assault, when victims have already had their agency stripped from them, the injury is further compounded by subsequent harm enacted by institutions, courts, or society. NDAs are an especially violent weapon of secondary victimization. Not only do they extend and expand the forced abnegation of agency from the primary assault, they also strip survivors of the most sacred parts of themselves, their stories. On an individual level, NDAs inhibit the possibility of connection required to facilitate healing after trauma. And on a societal level, NDAs prevent communities from accessing the data they need to recognize patterns of harm, apprehend abusers, and develop policy measures to appropriately and effectively mitigate the continuance of sexual violence. I have seen in my work NDAs used by churches, childcare centers, hospitals, psychiatric hospitals, schools, and nonprofits. Some of these nonprofits, ironically, claim to be on the front lines of sexual violence prevention. It is a cudgel that enables people who have the power to protect children to shirk that responsibility, avoid accountability, and pretend ignorance at the expense of present and future victims. I am here today on behalf of those who have been silenced, some to the point of catastrophic mental injury, others to the point of death. Imagine supporting someone who has significant trauma related to trafficking or abuse, but is trapped under an NDA. Imagine watching them navigate the psychological consequences of trauma, the panic, the dissociation, the nightmares, the terror, the addiction, the self-harm. And now imagine they are not allowed to tell anyone, not their therapists, not their families, not their partners, not their siblings, not their friends, about anything that is happening in their heads. Imagine being in the victim's shoes. That loneliness is reified. It is made interminable through an NDA. I respectfully urge you to advance this law. The villainy is so apparent it is the driving force of a children's bedtime story, a Disney cartoon. No one should be pressured, coerced, or enabled to trade their stories, especially not in the name of justice. Secrets should not be allowed to die in darkness. Survivors should not be sentenced to a life in the shadows. Thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, I don't see any questions. Thank you.